Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing really well. Is anybody, like me, really disappointed over the Hugh Edwards outcome? Do you think it's in our nature to want someone to fall from a lofty height? Why do we spend so much time supporting someone to get them to the top of their profession? If they're a footballer, we want them to be the top of their game, don't we? We want them to maybe make the England squad, score a winning goal in a World Cup. But once they get to the very, very top, we take enormous pleasure in seeing them drop to very, very low depths of despair. I don't know why we do it, but we just do. And I think we did that with George Best. I remember how everybody loved him so much when he was such a majestic player, dazzling everybody on the football pitch. But then, with his money, his womanising, his drinking, people just kind of thought they can't wait for him to just drop down and spiral out of control. The same with Gaza. People, I mean, let's face it, the DJ, Chris Evans, was taking him on wild weekend benders when he should really have been training. I think deep down, he actually blames himself for Gaza's drop in form, because really he should have been encouraging him to do the right thing, not to be going out getting pissed with him all the time. But that's another example. And there's just so many people that you can name where we've got behind them in the early stages. We've encouraged them, we've done what we can, we may have even financially tried to back them. With like a YouTuber, we may have given them money and helped them along the way and give them a leg up into the world of success. But then they get up there and all of a sudden we don't like it. We just don't like it. And we find a way then to destroy them. Now, I used to think that the British press did that better than anyone. And I'm sure they did that with Robbie Williams. When Robbie Williams was getting to the point where he was an easy target, wasn't he, for certain newspapers. And he was a leading story, front page news all the time. And so they would do everything they could to needle him, to get a reaction out of him, and then to say, look at that, drinking, drugs, that's where it's going. That's what happens. Your rock and roll lifestyle, that's an example of it there. But do you think we do that with politicians as well? Yep, we do. We certainly do it with entertainers. We did it with Michael Barrymore. Okay, in Michael Barrymore's case, a lot of it was self-inflicted. I mean, he tried to give himself some kind of alibi, didn't he? By leaving his party early and going and making sure he was sat in a pub where he could be seen. Giving himself an alibi. That didn't wash too well. And the eventual outcome of that was that people saw through him. They could no longer trust him, and so they would no longer want to look upon his face on the television if he was in the role of a game show host. And this is where we have to bring in the same situation for Hugh Edwards. Nobody's going to want to look upon his face. No one's going to believe that when he says these things on the BBC, whatever programme and whatever story that he's relating to at the time, no one's going to believe that what he's saying, he means it. People are going to see him as a phony. And unfortunately, there's always a consequence, isn't there, for someone who gives in to their desire. I used to like an old expression, and that is that each person is enticed by their own desire. It's a fantastic statement. It is a bit of a spiritual statement, yes. I don't expect that the atheist will understand what that statement's about in the same sense as a Christian. But yes, when desires are put before you in life, And those desires come in many varieties. It could be that you've got a problem with gambling. You may have a problem with, it could be anything. I don't want to be too specific, but it could be anything. It could be something sexual. It could be drinking. It could be drugs. It could be anything. Each person is enticed by their own desire. Now, if they didn't have the desire to do those things, and if Hugh Edwards didn't have the desire to meet these young people, behind his wife's back and behind his children's back, then he wouldn't have fallen from that height. Can you see what I'm saying here? That each person is enticed by their own desire. But if you take away that desire, completely remove it, then there's more chance that you're likely not to be tempted. Because that's what it is at the end of the day. It's a temptation. A desire that's within us is just a temptation. And some people, very, very foolish ones, give in to those temptations and those desires. And there's always a consequence. And it may take time, and it did do with Hugh Edwards. It took time. He'd been doing this for quite a while. Now, the upshot is that no criminality was found by the police. Now, I don't want to say too much about the police investigation, other than the fact that Operation U-Tree, they found nothing there. I mean, that's quite disgraceful that they had this huge investigation with some of the best investigating detectives in the land, and they found nothing. Zip. Keir Starmer was on the prosecution team, and he found nothing. Zip. Because they weren't looking, were they? Were they? Oh, they'll say they were. Well, they carried out a thorough investigation, we did, on Jimmy Savile. They didn't. They couldn't have done. Because once he died, it just poured out, didn't it? Out of every crevice. It just poured out. So it was already there while the investigation team was doing their thing, but they weren't looking because they were told not to look. That's the truth. They were told to look away. Because, and this is the most simple fact, they could not afford to have found anything on Savile because of his connections to the royal family. Can you see why it all went away? It would have been too embarrassing for the Queen, too embarrassing for the Freemasons out there. And so it went away. And Hugh Edwards' situation is going away because he belongs to the same club as Savile. You can bet your life he'll be a Freemason. Those bloody Masons. They're a flaming nuisance, aren't they? But if they want their own way, they get their own way. And there's nothing we can do about it. See ya. Goodbye.